Hey guys, Mythbusters here, and today I'm getting a little malicious and complying with this subreddit, Malicious Compliance. Today I have 4 stories lined up. Let's get right into them, starting off with this one. Delete it? You sure? Okay, so I am a fiend for Excel spreadsheets. Absolutely love them, and even bought an extra wide monitor for home so I can see them in all their glory. My boss keeps telling me that she's an advanced Excel user. She can run macros, she can do pivot tables, she knows formulas. Not once have I seen her create or manipulate a spreadsheet in the 6 months I've worked for her. So I had a template on our Teams chat that we used every week. It was automated to within an inch of its life to tell us about the company's health. We've been using it for the last 4 months after I was given approval by the boss to make it live, gave her a tutorial and everything. This was for the admins to see it, and I only need to update the raw data once a week instead of send it manually to whoever wanted it on a given day. Up to 4 times a day usually. Took about 6 hours work a week having it set up like that. Well, the boss told me to take it down because a different department who hadn't seen it was worried about personal data when one of the admins told them about it. There isn't anything like that in there, and anything that isn't open access is password hidden anyway. Our IT team has to be formally requested to add a new member to our team's chat. The spreadsheet is password protected, the tabs are password protected, and the whole company is locked down hard anyway. So boss orders me to take it down and delete it. Run a fresh one for anyone who wants it. So I explained there wasn't anything in it that was personal or private data. But got told, nope, delete it. Tried to explain, we use it amongst the admins every day, and it has these built-in features and tables, etc. Nope, delete it. So I did. The fallout? Read on. Here today, boss says to me her big boss meeting is presenting figures to the executives tomorrow. She starts quoting figures that are wildly out from the true numbers. I questioned where they came from, and she shows me a Frankenstein report that is saying the exact opposite of what she thought. Run by someone not even in our department. I tell her the accurate grand total and show her how I got there with the simple table and some screenshots I had of the original shared spreadsheet. She asks for access, and I tell her it's been deleted. I explained why, and even showed the meeting notes where she approved its use after viewing. She denies any knowledge of it, but wants it back. I said it would take me 2 to 3 days to make it again due to my workload increases. I saved a copy of the template, but no way am I telling her that. This will give me some breathing room to get the backlog out of my queue while she thinks I'm working on it. Let her sweat through that executive meeting knowing every figure is wrong. No one's saving her, but in this team anymore. Oh, it is nice to see you stand up for yourself in that way. It's like, nah, I'm not gonna help you. You brought it on yourself. And purposely hold it back a few days just so she could be like, oh, all these numbers are wrong, but I'm gonna fudge it. Oh dear. When the secret backfires. Around 2008, I was a radiology assistant in a mammography unit, meaning I was the person who ushered in patients, showed them where to put their belongings, gives them the gown and instructions. Another part of my job was keeping the radiology station clean and tidy so that the work surfaces were clear and sanitary. Around this same time, the secret was huge, and my co-workers were all way into it. For those who don't know, it is a ridiculous pseudo-scientific method pushed by Oprah Winfrey that promises you can get whatever you want simply by visualizing and asking the universe for it. The ugly side of this fairy tale thinking is that if bad things happen to you, it's your fault because you invited it by putting bad energy out into the universe. I found it wildly inappropriate that healthcare professionals believed that breast cancer victims had caused their own cancers through negative thinking. I fought with a few of the radiology techs about it, but I was completely outnumbered, so I tried to just keep my head down, focus on patients, and do my job, which includes hunting up their own magazines. Okay, secret. Oprah magazines, secret books, and other secretly related materials, so that they would leave strewn all over the counters. Like, where was that so coming from? Since they all hated me for not being in that secret clique, they decided to hang up on me and go to the managers with complaints about my attitude. I was called out of work into a disciplinary ambush meeting where I explained my side of things. One of the higher up managers totally agreed with me and actually defended me, but at the conclusion of the meeting, I was told not to touch anyone else's stuff because there were complaints that I was shoving magazines into corners and threw away someone's copy of The Secret. I really wish I had, but I actually did not do that. It was a complete lie. So by complaining about me, my idiotic co-workers effectively took away the part of my job, which was cleaning up after them. I was no longer allowed to touch their magazines, so they piled up 2 inches deep on every surface. Plus empty bottles and yogurt containers, used napkins, cafeteria trays, popcorn trees, and other sorts of trash. The workstation looked like a landfill. They would be absolutely seething about it and glaring at me, but I would sit there reading, happily doing absolutely nothing about it since I wasn't allowed to touch their stuff. Ooh! Not allowed to touch other people's stuff? Okay. Landfill it is, people. You want me to put how much concrete in your Civic? Many years ago, I worked in a locally run store that sold a bit of everything. I was the low-paid teenager that carried heavy things to people's vehicles. While working one day, I get called over the radio that a customer needs 12 bags of concrete at 80 pounds each. I was expecting to see a pickup truck or something similar backed into our loading area. Instead, I saw a small Honda Civic there waiting for me. Thinking it was a mistake, I asked the driver to relocate momentarily as I had someone coming to pick up multiple bags of concrete. Imagine my surprise when they told me they were the customer I was waiting for. What? A Honda Civic. I asked the customer how much they wanted to take in each trip, as I believe that nearly 1,000 pounds of concrete might be too much for the small vehicle to handle safely. The customer became aggravated and insisted they were taking it all at once. I quickly ran this past the store owner to make sure I wouldn't be liable for any damages. I ran back, apologized to the customer, and began loading the bags. As I loaded everything up, the customer made several quips about how the customer is always right, and that I was too young and naive to understand that vehicles are engineered within this margin of safety. I don't think 100 pounds is in that margin. Oh, 1,000 pounds. It quickly became apparent that there was no play left in the suspension, but at this point, I just stopped questioning things. I couldn't fit all the bags in the trunk, so the customer cleared their back seat and I loaded up that as well. Upon leaving the loading area, you can clearly hear things rubbing. As the car went to exit the parking lot, it passed over the elevation change between the lot and the road, and there was a loud bop of something breaking, followed by scraping. I could see that the driver was irate in the car. After a moment, they got out, looked around, and under their car. The guy sheepishly asked for my cell phone, because his had died and he needed to make a few phone calls. A short time later, a tow truck came to remove the car. The guy waited in our lot for nearly an hour until his wife could come pick him up. Oh, 1,000 pounds of concrete in your car. No, that should not work. Like, your best, like, it's like, I feel like your car could handle at least 500 pounds. It reminds me of, like, the Mythbusters episode where they had, like, the guy had all his lumber and the concrete loaded up in the car. Like, in and on top of the car. Manager gets me fired. Doesn't realize there's a paper trail. I worked as a writer and editor for over a decade, and in that time, I had my fair share of bad bosses, like anyone. But there is one that completely takes the cake. I worked for a large media company that had dealings with a number of other companies and subsidiaries, yeah, ranging from publishing to fashion to sports to tech. You name it, they did it. How our writing department worked was each writer would have specific areas they would write for, kind of like how journalists have beats they cover. So if you're assigned to the fashion arm of the company or one of its partners / subsidiaries, you wrote or edited everything for that arm. I worked for this company for about a year and a half before a new manager was hired. She was second in command of our department. Part of her and our department director's job was to update our internal style guide when necessary. For those that don't know, a style guide is a reference document for how to either refer to things or how to format things for the company / partners. Before her tenure as a manager, this was only done once or twice a year, and the changes were relatively minimal since the style guide was very well established in the company and had been in place for a number of years. After she came on, it was being updated at least once a week, if not multiple times a week. It legitimately became an obsession for her. Aside from the general annoyance of keeping up with it, it didn't take long for me and my co-workers to reach the conclusion that a new manager didn't have the faintest idea what she was doing. Each new version had more and more glaring errors. At first, we all ignored these changes, giving her the benefit of the doubt and hoping, albeit naively, that these new directives were mistakes. That was until people started getting reprimanded for not following the style guide. I was the first to get a one-on-one closed-door talk. One of the departments I wrote for was sports, and she had seen that I had not been following the new rule of how I was to refer to the men's and women's teams I covered. Truthfully, I had willfully ignored it, hoping it was just a mistake. To my horror, however, it appeared my new writing manager didn't understand basic grammar. You see, the change she implemented removed the apostrophe from men's and women's. For example, if I was covering men's basketball, I was to refer to it as men's basketball without the apostrophe. Her rationale was that men didn't own the team. What? Therefore, it should not be possessive. Apparently, her understanding of the English language didn't evolve past grade school explanations. I was honestly dumbfounded at first, but once I got over the initial shock that the second in command of our department didn't realize men's was not a word, I tried bleakly to explain that men is already plural and that a possessive apostrophe s doesn't always denote direct ownership. Read, men's bathroom. She stared blankly at me for a few seconds, and for the briefest of moments, I thought maybe I was seeing the cogs in her head turn. However, she doubled down. Realizing the fight was lost, I told her that I would implement the changes going forward. Now here's where my malicious compliance comes in. We worked for and with some very high profile companies, and mistakes were not tolerated for things that were outward facing. Realizing her idiocracy would cost me my job. I made a simple request. Could you please email me the exact style guide rule you're referring to and how exactly you'd like me to implement it, with examples of where I messed up. She looked at me like I was stupid for not understanding what was being asked of me, but she still wrote it all down in an email for me. I also made sure any further style changes were referenced in an email and specifically asked that if there were further changes to cite how I had done them in the past, along with how she would like them to be done from now on. Sure enough, within about 6 months of this, I was fired. And at my exit interview, I had a HR folder containing every written communication regarding style changes, along with quite a bit of evidence that she was passing off her projects to other members of the department and changing people's work behind their back. She was fired 3 months after me, along with our department director 3 months after that. Turned out my little folder sparked a full investigation by HR, and after interviewing other co-workers in the department, they realized she had done all of it to have grounds to fire people within the department she didn't like. I just happened to be the first on the chopping block. The project she was passing off to other people, she was taking the credit for what they were doing to make herself look good. Those changes she was making to other people's work, HR realized that she was changing things to make it inexplicably incorrect. You gotta love software that tracks and changes and timestamps and listens the user. On top of this, they also discovered that she had, at best, exaggerated and at worst, fabricated large swaths of her resume. Woo! At the time she was fired, I had already found another job in a completely different department at the same company. It was a good gig and my new manager wasn't a complete idiot. Eventually I moved on from that company, but if anything, my time there taught me a very valuable lesson. Document, and document some more. Yeah, I'm not going to read the edits, but it's like, oh, it is amazing. Oh, it's interesting how she decided to fake it till she makes it. And then when she made it, she was like, oh, I don't like these people. I don't like these people. Was she blonde? Was she like the ditzy blonde? Or is she a fiery redhead? It's like, I don't like these people. I want to go on. How do I get rid of them? I know, I'll make them all look like idiots. Oh yeah. Paper trail gets my ass fired. On that firing note, links will be in the description to both my channels and also to the Twitch page I have. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know next video comes out. A ding, a ding. I'm the Mad Scientist. Mad Scientist out.